Alrighty. Looks like we're live. Hopefully all the audio stuff is set up properly so we can go ahead and get started. But we're here for yet another Moonshire Monday, and oh shoot, yeah, the bot said the song name twice. Sorry about that. Yeah, so the format of the stream's a little bit different. I have a different chat monitor, but it's a little bit nicer looking, I think. Excuse me while I still figure out everything. I am still feeling a little bit sick. Last week I had to end stream a little early just because I wasn't feeling well, and I'm still not feeling well. I believe it or not, I've been sick for a full week, and I'm so congested, and it's kind of rough. Pippa, hi, welcome in. We got a few people in chat already. Thank you so much for being here. We got Welton, Anthony, Bahadur, Juvix. Thank you for being here. This stream probably, again, is going to be just an hour because I imagine that my voice is going to be pretty tired within a short period because it's been rough. It's not really that bad. The symptoms of what I'm feeling aren't that bad. It's just that I'm so stuffy, and whenever I talk, it like aggravates my throat and all that stuff. Love the song. Yeah, I love Undertale, and I love the soundtrack a lot. So nothing in particular that we're working on this week. Just once again testing things out, and there's a lot of small details that I want to make better, but I don't think I'll be able to do that on stream. A lot of tweaks, a lot of small little details I need to fix. Let's see. I'm making sure everything's looking okay, just because I think that the stream settings are a little bit different this time, and it's not, I don't think it alerted some folks. Okay, I think people are pouring in. Azure Prime, hi. Spook, hi. I need to fix... There's so much stuff I need to fix. It's like an endless list of things. I want to try this game. Thank you, appreciate that. It's gonna be here soon. It's just there's still a lot that needs to be updated. Does the dodge roll supposed to be transparent? Yeah, so the dodge roll has invincibility frames, and I decided to try putting the transparency on the roll just to help see if that communicates that idea better. Because that's one thing that I think is challenging with something like Dark Souls or Tunic, for example. Tunic is a game that uses the dust on the ground to indicate when you have iframes, but I don't feel like that's as obvious. When you're transparent, it's kind of obvious that you can't take damage. You mentioned earlier that transportation is better in the new demo. Transportation. So in the new demo, things are organized way better, where there's not as big gaps between the save points. So really the main improvement with the new demo that I'm showing off here is just that the level design adds to the game in such a positive way compared to before. Really, before, I just had levels that people would play through, and they were really meant to just give a small little sandbox playground for people to play with the mechanics. But now, for the past like half year, I've been so focused on just making the levels better, and I'm realizing how important that is, because I didn't really care before. I didn't think level design mattered, but it does. Like with my game, it's a combination of exploring and fighting. And exploring is only fun if the level design is good. If the level design is not good, then the process is not very fun at all. You're thinking about having the username Azure Prime or Elias Indy. Those both sound really nice. How do you make UI responsive? If you mean like how it's quick and snappy, I mean, so the way that I do it for my game is I'm not using any UI libraries. Everything is just custom coded specifically for the game. And the UI is really nice and snappy, just because it's built into the code. It doesn't... it's integrated nicely is what I mean. So I have this new UI file, and I show this file all the time because it's so long and it keeps getting bigger. 2,800 lines, and it's all of the UI in the game normally comes from this file somewhere, and some way or another. Also pause. But this is a lot of code that we're talking about. 750 lines. Oh, and then there's another file, button.lua. This is another big one. 595. So, in order to make it snappy, it's making all of these files communicate with each other in a really, really efficient way. And that's not, there's no easy answer to that, but the way I made it work for my game specifically is since everything's custom coded for the game, I'm able to optimize it nicely. System requirements, there's no system requirements. I think that the game will work on any PC, even if it's low end. The main character, yeah, no, the main character is not named Sage. I know that the Steam page says like Sage's Apprentice. That was some plot that I wrote so long ago that I'm not even planning to use that anymore. People call this character Lua. That's not the official name, but I don't really have a name for him. I think people calling him Lua makes sense. I think it's a cute name for this little character. So I'm gonna go over to this little map. What books do you recommend to learn good habits in programming? Oh, I wouldn't really use a book to do that. The only way that you can really build good practices is by writing a bunch of code, and you pick up on those little tricks over time. But if you try to read a book to pick up on good practices, then you're gonna forget all those practices. The only time that you learn, or at least I guess I can't say everyone, but for me personally, I learn things when I have to do something, and then I do it. Even when I don't know how to do something, it's like, you say, how do you learn how to write code or like with good organization? And the answer is you don't learn how to do that. The only way that you learn how to do that is by writing a lot of code, and then over time you pick up on the tricks to make it better. So my answer is I would not recommend reading a book to make your code better. I would recommend just writing a bunch of code, and it's going to be bad at first. It's not going to be well organized, but don't waste your time like just studying. I always prefer doing over studying. The old Legend of Lua times, yeah. The demo's cloud stage was laggy. Really? Yeah, I think that there are some specific areas that are more laggy than others. It also definitely depends on the number of collisions. So specifically, if I show this, so like these walls here, this is a pretty efficient map because we don't have very many of these walls. But there are some areas in the game that have tons of these colliders, and that slows the game down a lot. I need to be cautious using too many walls. Is he a silent protagonist? Yeah, he doesn't speak. And also, by the way, I always say he, but it's generic he. This character is meant to be like gender neutral, because we don't know what the character looks like underneath the hood. But I say he just because it's like a self-insert, I guess. I'm doing bad. Building good habits through lower level code. That kind of makes sense. Because then you get, in general, yeah, when you have to dig into the nitty gritty of things, it gives you a finer appreciation for, like, the details. And that's kind of how I feel with my game framework that I'm using. Is, like, I get some criticism sometimes for using a game framework that's like this lightweight code stuff, as opposed to using a full engine like Unity or Godot, because those would speed things up probably. But I've built such good habits with this system, and I've learned so much. I understand the code on a fundamental level, on a low level as well, kind of like what you're saying. And since I do that, I know it from the ground up. It's really easy for me to work with, and overall, that's to my advantage. But it's not super low level because the engine, the framework, does a lot of heavy lifting for me too. Like Love2D handles rendering and the interaction with the operating system, and I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. How do you spawn collectibles like coins, making them jump when they spawn? Yeah, so there's two questions in there. So like, one question is, let's go back to the tree, or how about let's go over to this one. So I think gold, yeah, gold pops out of that. So we saw right there that the gold like popped up and then landed on the ground. And the question is like, how do you spawn that? And then how do you make it jump? And the first question is, how do you spawn that? And if we go to prop, and I think there's a interact maybe? There's a function for, oh, on hit. So prop on hit, this is what causes the, like, the box to break. So it sets the box to dead. It spawns like the rubble, and it makes the screen shake. It plays the sound. And in this case, it says if self.resource. So some boxes can have a resource inside of the box, and if there is one, then it's going to check and see. Well, this first part is checking to see if the timer has cleared. So in this case, what that means is, since I just collected the gold that was in this box, that timer is there to protect you from respawning the area and going right back here and collecting it again. See, it's not there this time. And that's because whenever you collect gold from a box, it adds the box's ID to a timer, and that timer ticks down for 10 minutes. And once the 10-minute timer is up, that's when it allows you to harvest the gold again. And that's what this line is doing here. If it sees that the timer is still active, then this resource was collected and is still respawning. But otherwise, it does spawn the resource, and then we can see that it adds the timer. And yeah, so this is where we're spawning the resource that pops out of the box. And if we go over to, I have a file called resource.lua. The resource just means a resource is any of those like pick-upable items, so, or pick-upable things. So if I go over here, like, let's find another box to open. I think there's one up here. So like this box has gold in it. So like that's a resource, the item that pops out. Or the seeds that you get from the trees, that's another resource. And when it pops out, it does that little jump. Is Heart Gold Soul Silver my favorite Pokemon game? No, I wouldn't say so, because I like Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but the engine's too slow for me. I prefer the original for the aesthetics and because it moves a little bit faster, but I like Heart Gold Soul Silver soundtrack a ton. It's really, really good. But the bounce that I was talking about, I think I actually have a bounce. Oh, it's right here. Yeah, so all it does, it fluxes the, like, jump position. It does a little flux just to go up, and then it fluxes right back down to 0 so that it does a little bounce. How many lines of code do you think you have written for this project? I actually don't know, because every file has a different amount of lines. Like, this file has a couple hundred, this file has a few hundred, but then you have other files like New UI. This one has 2,800, and then you have files like, I don't know, Enemy. Well, this one's not that bad. This file is really good, but the problem is there are, look at all these Enemy files. Look at all these. There's so many. It never ends. It never ever ends. It's crazy. Just joined. What am I coding? We're just like talking through some stuff right now. Today's Mario Day. Yeah, I saw that in I saw that on Discord, and that's a really cute idea. Yeah, someone in chat said that it's Mario Day, which just means is Mario. It's March 10th. That's kind of cute. I like that idea. But I love Mario. I'm excited for the Switch 2 because I'm hoping that means that we get another 3D Mario. It's been a while since Odyssey came out. My new chat setup is really nice because I'm able to just look at OBS, and that's how I'm reading chat. The only problem with that is if I needed to... What is it? If I needed to delete a message, I'd have to open up a different window. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. What's the hardest thing to debug? Let's see, the hardest thing to debug normally is like shaders, because I have to go into my shader code. And this code is handled like externally, or I shouldn't say externally. It's like you see the shader. It uses a different language. It uses this GLSL code inside here. So testing it is really obnoxious because I basically just have to find a place to use this code in the game and do a before and after doing it that way. Thanks for watching. Yeah, I didn't mean to click on that. Yeah, I'd say that shaders are probably the hardest thing just because it's complex and I can't visually use it to like... I can't visually tweak things as easily. Adele, hi, welcome in. TK4TK. Am I no longer doing Twitch? No, I'm not doing Twitch. I just do YouTube at the moment. Mainly because I like showing the chat in stream. I feel like that adds a lot to the video. And you can't do that when you're multi-streaming. Can you put Lua on a Raspberry Pi? Well, Lua as in the language? Yeah, you could do that. Because Raspberry Pis are so good. They're just Windows computers or Linux computers. So you totally could. This game, you probably could as well. Once it has Linux support, definitely. No Love 2D. Well, if it runs Windows, then it could. If it runs Linux, then it could. But it depends on which version of Raspberry Pi. Build my game so much, thank you. Yeah, I think that the aesthetics of this game is something that a lot of people vibe with. I need to fix it. There's so many little bugs though that I need to fix. It's nuts. Yeah, you can see the gold didn't pop out of the box that time because it's still on the timer. And actually, I want to show that. I don't know if I've ever showed the timer for the resources before. I would need to save. Let's go save real quick. The way the combo flows, yeah, I love the combos. And I wanted to make it so that every weapon kind of felt a little bit unique from each other in that way. So now that I saved, I think if I go to states, there should be a timers. Yeah, look. So there's this timers file, or this timers table, and it has a list of all of the different boxes that have recently been opened. And this value right here is the number of seconds that the game still needs to wait before the box can be harvested for gold again. And again, the point of this is so that you can't just harvest the gold, leave the area, come right back, and then harvest it again. It needs this to know that it's still on a cooldown. And maybe I could change it from 10 minutes to like 5 minutes or whatever works. It's not that big of a deal, but I think something like this is really useful. Have I ever considered integrating libraries into STI, Animate Hump, Camera Flux? If I considered integrating libraries, well, I mean, that is not really my place to do that because I don't work on Love2D. I think that the Love2D developers could see the most used libraries and then integrate them into the engine. That does make sense. Like Animate, for example. I think Animate is so intuitive that Animate probably should. But at the same time, what's nice about third-party libraries is that they can receive frequent updated support as new features and updates come in. So if the library was baked into Love2D itself, that means that whenever a new feature or a new option, new update, anything comes out for that library, it needs to wait for the next release of Love2D. And that is a slower process compared to just having an open source GitHub page for your library and making your own independent updates to it as you please. You can make an update in a minute if you wanted to. Compared to Love2D, you have to like push all the code, have them code review it, have them integrate into the framework, and then wait for the next release whenever that is able to happen. So it's not quite as practical. But there's pros and cons to it. It would be more convenient if Animate was built in. And Animate makes sense because it's been the same for all these years. There's no reasons to make any changes as far as I know. When is this game releasing? It's going to be a while. Let's see. What was your inspiration for making the main character Moonshire? I've always liked the hooded characters, but I'm just a fan of the Zelda games. And there's a Shy Guy sprite in Link's Awakening that I saw, and I'm like, huh, that hooded character, he's like short and round. That's the whole idea, is that playable characters that have a bit more round of a proportion, it works better for gameplay because like you can roll on the ground, you're like a little ball. Like Kirby is the perfect video game character because he's a little ball. It's the best shape. And I wanted a little ball-shaped, a little friend-shaped friend. We commissioned someone to make a custom live stream overlay. Not exactly, but I am working on a new, like, starting soon and thanks for watching screen. Waiting for the full game? Thank you. Yeah, the demo, I'm excited for the new demo to come out. I keep talking about that. I know I keep delaying it, but for real, there's just so much to do. How do you start learning Lua and Love 2D? I have a getting started playlist on my YouTube channel. I would say check out that playlist. It's free and you can follow along and get started. I'm gonna give myself the swimming. What's my history with game engines? So the only game engines that I used like big time, full time is Game Maker. I used that for like 8 years growing up, like from middle school through high school, even into college a little bit, I think. And then once I was in college and I was learning full, like regular programming, that's when I switched over to Love 2D and Lua. No particular reason. I just like the language and I like the framework. It's my favorite video game ever. I genuinely think Elden Ring's the best game ever. It's my favorite. It's so good. I get a lot of inspiration from it. Make Terraria too. Can't say I'm qualified. Oops. Oh, I don't have enough seeds. Whoops. If you're listening very... Whoa, that was bugged. If you're listening very closely, you might notice sometimes that there's a lot of missing sound effects. Like when the enemies land, sometimes when they jump or when they attack, they're just silent. And it's surprising how much of a difference sound effects makes. You don't really think about it. I think sound effects is something that you don't really think consciously about until they're not there. But when they're not there, it's like, oh, wow, this feels very weird. Favorite horror game? I'm not really a fan of the horror franchises. I'm not a fan of that genre of game. I like watching them, and I think they're funny. And whenever I watch like a horror series and I actually get jump scared and spooked, it makes me laugh. So I do like horror stuff. It is fun, but it's not something I like watching just because I'm a baby. I'm a big old wimp. What do I recommend to beginners? For beginners, I normally recommend Game Maker. I really like Game Maker. That's what I used when I was a kid, and even if you're not a kid, a lot of popular games were made with Game Maker. How do I code cutscenes? Yeah, cutscenes are really complex because when a cutscene is going on, you basically have to change the state of everything. Like all the enemies have to stop moving, or they have custom behavior during the cutscene, and then the camera has to zoom in. It has to start behaving in its own way. Because like right now, the camera is smart enough to know where to go. It's following the player, but even more than that, it's following the player. But like when they get too close to the edge, see the camera stopped following the player. The player's not following the camera anymore. It's smart. And whenever I do cutscenes, I need to make sure that I'm accounting for that. When MOONSHIRE fully releases, will it be on consoles? Not at first. It's going to be Steam only at first. But I would love to do consoles. I think that'd be fun. Because I normally like playing games on consoles. Is there lore and Easter eggs? I'm working a lot on lore, but I haven't put it into the game yet. Because for me, lore comes last. I want the lore to add to the game. Or the lore needs to complement the game rather than the game complementing the lore. And I have a lot of really good ideas for that, but the best ideas are the best, or excuse me, the ideas that are best are the ones that suit the story the best. How long I've been working on this game? Man, it's been so long. It's been like, if you start when Legend of Lua started, that would be 5 years ago, but I took some breaks in there. I would say the most accurate answer is like 3.5 years, approaching 4. But 4 is a long time. Like, yeah, that's a long time to be working on the same project. And it's still got a ways to go. Like, even if you're just watching this gameplay here, it's pretty clear when there's some issues. Not big issues. They're just like small tweaks that need to be figured out before the game ships. You're 15. Should you make a game now? Yeah, you should make a game now. You don't have to be any particular age to make a game. That's why I recommend Game Maker. I started Game Maker when I was in 4th grade because I was reading Nintendo Power, which is a Nintendo magazine, and I saw an ad for this book called Game Maker's Apprentice, which at the time was a book on how to make games with Game Maker. It's outdated at this point. I don't recommend it, but the book was so much fun to use, and I was a kid. I was only in 4th grade, so if a 4th grader could figure it out back then with a book, I think that anyone, even a 15-year-old or a 13-year-old or a 10-year-old, could figure out this stuff too with the internet. There's a lot of really good resources out there to help learn these things. Still using Game Maker 16 years later, and there's definitely not a problem with that because there's a ton of games that are made with Game Maker. If Hyper Light Drifter and Undertale can be made with Game Maker, then there's no shame in that. I love both of those games a ton, and that's just there's so many of them. Do I think Soviet or German strategy was better during World War II? No comment. Mainly because I'm not well informed on military strategy. I'd love to play this game on console. It would be, yeah, I think it would be fun too. And it'll be fun once I have some co-op too. Should use Game Maker or Godot? There's no right answer. And in fact, this is what you should do. You should download both of them. They're both free. Download both of them. Try them both out. Make a little game with both of them. And see which one you prefer. Whoa. The stab, like, boosting is all screwed up because I'm losing frames. That's actually weird. Whoa! Yeah, because the game's losing frames and it's causing the spear stabs to be messed up. This is kind of like a Pokemon boss battle. Oh, that's so weird. Like, I keep, like, zooming through them. It's not supposed to do that. Yeah, that looks really weird. That's pretty strange. That boss is too hard. Because that's supposed to be the first boss. The boss is barely. I mean, the boss is functional, but it's so janky and it has a lot of like weird animations to it that I need to fix. But otherwise, like, it is functional. I just need to like work out the weird aspects of it. To make everything myself now, there's someone helping me, or there's a lot of people actually helping me with some of the pixel art and the illustrations and some of the animations. I pay for a lot of like open source or paid asset packs, so it's not all made by just me. Cyber Potato, this is a game development stream. This is not a stream related to whatever you're talking about. Yeah, Cyber Potato, if you keep this up, I'm just gonna mute you again. You're being annoying. Do I like Souls-likes? Yeah, I love Souls-likes. I haven't played too many of them, though. So I played, like, Elden Ring and Dark Souls, but then with regular Souls, like, I played Tunic, if that counts. I played Death's Door. I think Hollow Knight kind of counts. Oh, don't. Yeah, I didn't mute you last time. Oh, you're fine. It's just that I think you're trying to be edgy by talking about weird, unrelated things, and it's kind of cringe. How do you deal with bugs in your game? Is there a handcrafted log/debugger system, or do you use a library, or is there a built-in function in your code editor? Yeah, that's a good question, because when you let's see. So I'll show this. There's prints. Print. Hello, this is a print statement. So, this is what I do to help with testing things. And debugging. When the game starts, I have this little console window that pops up. And then in the game, whenever that print statement gets hit, whenever I press P, so that's how I do testing. because all throughout my game, there's lots of places where I say print, and then, like, you can see, like, here I have found player, failed to find player, found the, I don't know what this is. Oh, this is viable tile, yeah. So there's lots of different places where I use these print statements to help determine, like, what point in the code it got, or it reached. Because sometimes it's not always clear when the new line of code you wrote is actually getting there. So, like, for example, if I didn't know for sure that any of this code was running, I could put a print statement here, and then if I see the print statement, then I know for sure that this code was run. How can player get damage flash? Gets damage of flash. Yeah, so I do that with shaders. And how do I do this? Whiteout, here we go. So I use this shader that I wrote called whiteout, and literally all it is taking the pixel and changing it to all white. Wait. Oh, yeah, specifically if it's a solid non-transparent pixel. If it's solid so when A is 1, that means it is fully opaque, and that means that you can't see through it. So as long as you can't see through the pixel, then it's going to change that pixel to solid white, which is why the damage flash happens. And if I go up to one of these enemies up here, I can show that again. When will you have a public version? So there is a public version right now on Steam. If you look up MOONSHIRE on Steam, you should be able to find it. But admittedly, the version that's on Steam is a little bit outdated compared to this version. Making a couple months now and trying to make a demo for it, but the group of friends I make aren't doing anything. So you're finding out that working in a group is tricky, and the main reason is because everyone has their own different level of investment into it. And I'm sure that we all can relate to that, right? Where you're in school, for example, and you have to work on a group project, and you have that one kid in the group that is not pulling their weight. That's a pretty common problem that people run into. I always hated group projects when I was in high school because it always felt like I was the one that had to do everything. And it's not that I had to do everything. It's just that I was the one that wanted an A. I wanted an A on the project while everyone else didn't really care. Like a B would be fine or a C would be fine. And I get that. I don't expect everyone to care as much as I do. But because I was the one that cared the most, that meant that I had to put in the most amount of work. And that's unfortunate. And you're finding that out too, because you're saying that you want to make a game, but the friends that you're working with aren't putting in their fair share of work. And I'm guessing the reason for that is because they just don't care quite as much as you do. And that's always going to happen. There's no real way around that except for finding the people that do actually care about that stuff. I used to make my projects alone, and I get all my assets done really fast. Some people just don't really feel for your project as much as you do. Well, totally. Yeah, so that's always going to be something and I'm conscious about that with my game too, where just that I have more personal stakes in this game than anyone else. What do you study? I studied computer science. Is there Eldritch Horror bosses in this game? I mean, I think it would be fun if the final boss was some kind of like Eldritch Horror beast crazy thing. Because like, I always liked how in the Kirby games have a final boss that's always like this really crazy, scary beast, like some world-ending power. And it's always so ironic because Kirby's so cute and cuddly, and yet he's fighting these scary abominations. It's always so ironic. Do you plan on making merch of Moonshire like a plushie? I would love to do that, but not for a while. That's something that would happen only after release, and also only after the game does well. What does edgy mean? Oh, sorry. When I said edgy, what that meant was, like last stream you were talking about nihilism, and this stream you're talking about military, like conquest, specifically Russians and Germans. Like these are controversial, edgy topics. Edgy means that you're talking about things that are meant to kind of like stir things up. You're saying things like, I'm angsty. Like I'm talking about, you're talking about kind of like bleak things for the sake of it, because it makes you look cool. That's what edgy means. And it doesn't come off well. I would prefer we stay on topic. It means you're trying too hard to be cool. Yeah, exactly. Kyle, do you bring more videos or courses about monogame? Probably not, because monogame and Love 2D are really similar. And I just have a little bit of a personal preference for Love 2D. A fourth dimensional cube. Oh, like the Tesseract? I love the Tesseract. I haven't seen that for a long time. Tesseract. Can I find a GIF of this? Oh, look at that. Yeah. My bad. No worries. No worries. The reason I pointed out is because I went through a phase like that as well. Like that's pretty common. It's no worries. It's totally cool. One indie game that I would love to play is Hollow Knight. I love Hollow Knight. I love Hollow Knight a lot. It's one of my favorites ever. I've been running love games with Fennel and really enjoying it. Oh, cool. Nice. I'm going to... go ahead and burn down this section. I do need to fix the lighting on this, because, like, watch this. If I burn too many of these, the lights, like, overlap and it becomes oversaturated. Like, that's not what fire looks like when it overlaps with each other. Did I ever played Celeste? I love Celeste as well. I have it on my Switch. Celeste is super inspirational for me, because I love the art style, and because it mixes... I think Celeste's art style is kind of similar to mine. Or, really, I should say mine's similar to Celeste's. So let's look up screenshots. Because Celeste has like the solid black outlines. This is just a random screenshot. Don't show that. You know what? I'm gonna take it back. This actually doesn't look like mine. I was thinking about Madeline's sprite because she has a solid black outline around her whole character, and she also squashes a little bit too, which I think is really neat. I'm thinking about doing that with my character. So when Madeline jumps and then lands, when she lands, she like squashes down a little bit, and I think it's using like mixels, and I think I could do the same thing. Like whenever you dodge, I could have the player like squish slightly horizontally so that you get stretched out. It's a little bit of an extra. Yeah, Cyber Potato, you need to chill out. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. Read the room. This is a game development stream, and let's stay on topic. So, but anyway. Oh, yeah. What I was thinking about Celeste is that I wish that, well, now I'm second guessing myself, because what I was going to say is that Celeste didn't have solid black outlines around everything, but I guess mine doesn't either, because like the water edges don't have solid black outlines. Objects and the characters. So maybe my style is closer than I think it is. How long did it develop the game? About 3 years, 3 or 4. Ooh, that looked weird. That looked really weird. Oh, that looked weird too. That it keeps like... I have so much stuff to fix. Just playing through on this stream right now, it's I'm finding so many small little details that are a little messed up. Is the game linear? So I have it set up where the start of the game is pretty linear. you start off. It teaches you mechanics one by one, where you're walking through. It teaches you how to dodge through the spikes. It teaches you how to fight the first enemy. It teaches you how to pick up another weapon, how to switch weapons. So it goes one by one, and then once it's done, like going through each of the individual mechanics. So like maybe after around this point in the game, so maybe like half an hour in, that's when it opens up and you can start choosing which places you want to go. Because the other thing that's nice about a linear intro is that you're traveling around in this linear path, but you're discovering places that you will want to go later. So a bit of a linear introduction, I think it adds to an open world, because it keeps you in that narrow path at first, and when it finally opens up, it feels very liberating. How did I come up with the name Moonshire? Oh, it was very methodical. I'll pull up the list of name ideas in a second, or after this fight. I need to find it real quick. So the way that I came up with the name Moonshire. Let's see. I'm gonna have to find it. Ah, here it is. Here it is. I found it. I'm gonna try and do this in the responsible way. I don't want to show anything I don't want to show. Okay. So this is what it looked like, is that I started by creating this big long list of words that I thought sounded cool. It's literally just that. I thought that these words sounded cool. So I'm like compiling this big list: Nexus, Prophecy, Myth, Citadel, Eldritch, Veil, Cosmic, Zenith. These are awesome words. I'm like, I gotta put one of these words in my game. So I came up with all these like words that I thought were cool. And then I started trying to combine them together. So I said Suncrest, Sunhaven, Moonhaven, Moonshire. This is the first time that I wrote Moonshire was there. I wrote down a bunch of like suffixes to add to the end of the word if I wanted to make it into a place. Here's a bunch of star and space themed words. So like comet, crescent, equinox, flare. These are just nice sounding cosmic words. And I was just brainstorming tons and tons and tons of options. Constellations. These are like names of constellations if I wanted to use any of these as part of the title. And then when I finally decided, okay, I want to use the word Shire as part of the title, then I came up with like all of these different options that use the word Shire: Dawnshire, Dayshire, Jadeshire, Stoneshire, Sunshire, Rainshire. And so like, I look at all these. There's so many of these. I came up with so many options. This is a good one: Lunavale, Stellar, Nebulous, Stellaria, Lumina. A bunch of prefixes that I could use, more suffixes. Misthaven. Looks like these are some extra names: Nexus of Prophecy, the Eldritch Citadel, the Hemlock. Actually, these look AI generated. These ones, I bet I used AI for these. These don't sound legit. These don't sound like things that I would write, is what I mean. These do. Moonwisp Kingdom. That's hard to say. The Unseen Kingdom, Starfall Kingdom. Those are fine. Moonhaven Crest. Yeah, and this is the other challenge with coming up with names, is like the name Misthaven. I'm like, Misthaven, that sounds so cool, but like there's already a book series with the name Misthaven, so you can't use it. So I could have, there's probably 100 different names I could have come up with before Moonshire that would have been better, but they're all taken. You have to choose something that's truly unique, and that is not easy to do. So it's a balance of finding a name that fits the theme and works, but also if it's already being used by someone, it's just off the table entirely. And I think Moonshire is a good like middle ground, because there are problems with the name Moonshire. My biggest problem with it is that it looks too much like the word moonshine, and whenever people type the word Moonshire into their phone, it autocorrects to moonshine, and when you look at the word Moonshire, it just looks like the word moonshine. So that's why I have the game listed in all capital letters on the Steam page, because I've talked about this on stream plenty of times, but Moonshire. Let's make this a lot bigger. Moonshire versus Moonshire. So this one down here, a lowercase r looks a little too much like a lowercase n. They're very similar letters. But an uppercase R is very different from an uppercase N. And this is the one and only reason why I decided to just use the all caps on Steam. It's like, I know the other games do that, like Undertale did that, but I thought that I don't want to deal with people accidentally misreading it as moonshine. Will it be available for Android or iOS? I think so. I haven't committed or said anything for sure about that, because working with mobile is very hard. It makes the process much more difficult. And if it turns out to be too tedious, then I won't. And also, I think monetization on mobile is going to be a little bit more difficult with this game, because I don't want... well, for one, monetization on mobile games is very different than Steam. Normally you monetize... Whoa! I just crashed the game. Okay, let's fix this. Util is 142. Let's see what happened. Oh, this is the same bug as before. This is actually the same bug that I've been showing on stream for like 3 streams in a row. So let's see if I can fix it. So let's redo the stack. So this is being called from enemy action 168. Yeah, this is the same one. Enemy action 168. I don't... This is one of the few bugs that is really... It's really confusing me. It's really confusing me because what's happening is that on this line is the line that's crashing. It's calling this function get from to vector, which all this does is it gives you a vector from this position to this position. So it's going from enemy position to enemy destination position. And then it creates a vector from that. However, it's saying that this value, dest x, is nil. 2x is nil. So it's saying that this is nil. And if you try to pass a nil value into this function, it crashes. It just crashes everything. So what I tried doing... Oh, you know what? Actually... You know what? I'm dumb. We're going to say if not n.dest x. Yeah. Yeah, I think... Well, wait, actually... Do we want txty? Am I using this? I don't think this is right, actually. Why do I have tx and ty if... Did I watch Death Note? Yeah. It looks like, it looks weird that in this white environment, I don't know what to spell that, the spikes are still green, just come out. Yeah, it's definitely not going to stay like that. The tile, you mean? Yeah, it looks really weird how the spikes come up through the tiles. 5 hours of bug fixes? I hope it's not 5 hours of bug fixes. What's the difference between GUI and UI? Not so it's not game UI versus UI. It's the G stands for graphical user interface and UI stands for user interface. So GUI is a little bit more specific because a graphical user interface means that you can see the interface with your eyes and you interact with it visually. But not all user interfaces are visual, because you could consider like a talking interface. Like if I made a voice detecting robot, that's still an interface. It's still a user interface, but it's not a graphical user interface because you're not visually seeing it. So that's what the difference between GUI and UI would be. I thought GUI meant game UI. No, it doesn't. It means graphical user interface. It's a generic term that's used all over the place. But in general, I'd say people use GUI and UI almost interchangeably. But UI is a bit more all-encompassing in edge cases where you don't have a visual component to it. What's the part of the game you worked on the most recently? Level design by far, because basically every day for the past 6 months I've been just making maps like this. It's been absurd. It's been really crazy. So this line here, I think that this is going to help fix the problem, because specifically, well, this is going to fix the problem, but I don't know why I shouldn't even be using dest x actually. Or maybe I should. I think I need to be using tx here. I think that's the problem. This might cause... No. This is not going to cause problems. So what happens if this... Okay, 1 second. I need to check this function now, too. Enemy utils. So we're going to see get target position. Okay, so it does. It's never going to return nil. Good. So I think actually the bug was that I was using n.destx and n.destY when I should have been using this, tx and ty, because this will get me the most accurate value and it will never be nil. It is impossible for tx and ty to be nil, ever. So that crash that we just got, it should never happen again. Now, the only concern I have is if for some reason there's a discrepancy between destx and tx. I don't think that there is, because this function, all that this function does is it returns those same values, and then it returns 0 if it doesn't. So yeah, this should fix that issue. Finally, geez. I don't know. Maybe I must have misread it every time that I was working on it before. Would you create a top-down RPG rather using Pygame or Godot? It doesn't really matter. Really, it's just up to you, because they're very different. Pygame would be a framework kind of like what I'm working with, where it's all text-based. It's all like lightweight framework, while Godot is more of an engine. It's more all-encompassing and has a lot of stuff to speed things along. So they're different experiences, but one's not necessarily better than the other. They're both free, so I would download both of them and see which one you like the best. Can you configure the LSP to allow you to use jump to? Just jump to the... Oh, configure... Yeah, I could do that. For some reason, for my whole life, I never use jump to. Because how do you do that? Is it Control G? Yeah, go to. Yeah, I could start using Control D or Control G, because like you were seeing there a second ago, what happened was I looked at the bug and it says the problem's on line 142. But then if you watch the VOD, I go over to this file and you see me going over here and I'm like scrolling around looking for 142. That's what a caveman does. What a modern gentleman would do would say Control G and then say 142. That's the prim and proper way to do it. You copy and pasted this comment 3 times? Yeah, please don't do that. Need to go eat. Oh my gosh, I had some McDonald's for lunch and it was so good. I'm a McDonald's fiend. It's embarrassing. I think with development environments, it's a balance of control and work. Yeah, I'd say so. How do you manage the entrepreneurial uncertainty of developing game while you work? Yeah, well, so the entrepreneurial uncertainty, what you're implying there sounds like is how do you manage the finances to make sure that you can make it day to day? And that's a very, very good question because a lot of studios struggle with that aspect of it. And there's a very real reason why they struggle with it. It's because games are hard to make money with. Speaking personally, I've never made a single cent. I've never made a single dollar with any games that I've ever made. And since that's the case, I have to imagine that a lot of other studios have that same problem where they've made games, but they haven't made any money from them. And if you're not making money, then yeah, that is going to introduce a lot of entrepreneurial uncertainty. And if you don't have money to pay your bills, you can't really make a game because you have to go out and work and pay your bills. Like, being a starving artist without money is not fun because you can't do art. You have to focus on earning an income. That's just an unavoidable fact. And the way that I handled that side of the equation is by very strict preparation. While I was working as a software developer, I lived very well below my means. I was very active at saving up stuff or like saving back money. I always spent way less than what I made. I got into investing, putting money into like a 401k, putting money into an investment account so that it can grow. And basically I just built myself a little bit of a nest egg so that once I moved on to this full-time work of game development, I could do it without the financial stress of it. Because like you're saying, there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the finances in the game development space. A lot of games just don't make money. And while you're in development, you definitely don't make money because the game's not out yet. And how do you circumvent that? It's going to be different for every person. Some people will go to publishers and then the publishers will pay for development. But then the cost of that means that they get all the royalties. And then some people will go to like Kickstarter and they'll get crowdfunding for their game. But then there's a time commitment for doing that. And there's some expectations that come with that. You have to pay out rewards. It's not a one-to-one gain of profit because if you're including rewards in those like reward tiers, that's going to eat into it as well. I need to study and love to be, sorry. You need to study Lua and love to be more deep. I completed your tutorials and they are great. So my advice is don't study. There's nothing to study for. The only thing you can do is just write code. My advice is to, if you want to make games, for example, just make a game. You don't need to study it. Just make games, and if your code is bad, that is okay. As long as you recognize it. Well, I shouldn't say as long as you recognize. It's okay that your code's bad, because every line of code that you write, like this year, will probably be worse than the code that you write next year, which will be worse than the code that you write the following year. As long as you keep doing it over and over again, you'll get better at it, and you'll pick up on the tricks. I never recommend people just to sit down and study things. Like watching YouTube videos is not going to help you. The only thing that's going to help you is if you actually work on projects. And that's uncomfortable advice because that means that you have to put yourself in a very vulnerable position of trying to do something that you don't know how to do. Like it's not easy to try and build a house when you don't know how to build a house. It's crazy going into that. So that's why you need to start with, let's build like a little shack. Like a tiny little, let's build a doghouse first. We're going to start by building a doghouse. And at the end of building that doghouse, it's going to be a really crappy, bad doghouse. But at least you'll have learned something from that experience. And then the next doghouse you build will probably be a lot better than that first one. And then eventually you'll be able to build your own dream house in the same way that you'll be able to build your own dream game. But that's not for a ways away. So keep it simple at first. And you'll pick up on the coding tricks over time, but don't waste your time sitting in a classroom or sitting on tutorials or books or something like that, because it's not going to be as productive as just making things. It's a good analogy. Thank you. Same for mathematics. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think with math, for me, it was just a matter of doing problems over and over again until the process of going through each type of problem made sense on a fundamental level. And by the way, I was going to end stream early, but I'm feeling good. I don't think I need to end stream. I feel fine. I love living in doghouses. That's weird coming from a human. I want to make a life bar in a pixelated style, but since the pixel num of tiles in the game, how to give it that style? Well, so it's not tiles, it's the pixel number. Because, yeah, in traditional regular pixel art games, there's no subpixels, so you have to do on a pixel by pixel basis. But like my game has subpixels. If I wanted to do a health bar, which actually, by the way, I did have a health bar in my game for the enemies and for the player at one point, and it's able to use subpixel movement. The way that you do a health bar, I bet I still have the code for it too. Bar. Sure, let's say draw boss bar. Here we go. So the way that a bar works is you calculate the width. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this. What you're doing is you're calculating how much of the bar do you need to fill up. The full bar is this wide. But if the boss is half dead, it's not going to be this full width. It's going to be half that. And if the boss is at health, then it's going to be this times 0.25. And that's why down here, when we actually draw the rectangle, this is the red part of the bar. This is the part that shows you how much health you have. That's why it says the width of this rectangle is bar W minus... Wait. I want to make sure I'm not explaining this improperly. Oh, sorry. This is the background. This is the background bar. This is the one that actually has the health. Because this calculates the percent. What percentage of your health is left? It's the current amount of health you have divided by the maximum amount of health that the character has. Then once you have the percent, then you're going to use this percent to draw a box that's the width times the percent. And that's how the bar gets filled up the exact amount. It just calculates that percentage right here and then draws a rectangle that's that percentage width. Oh, that's tough. I mean, it looks tough, but it's kind of straightforward. So this section is defining the dimensions of it. This section is drawing the background, like the black part of the bar, just the background of the bar. This is calculating the percentage of how much the health bar is filled up. This part is drawing the red, the red filled in part, how much health they actually have. And then this last part just writes the word boss above the bar. Is the music info in chat a service bot? It's a program called Mix It Up. It has a music player and you can attach a bot to it. Can you talk a little bit about the development of Necrozone? Yeah, wow, I haven't talked about Necrozone for a long time. I actually think I can pull it up. I haven't talked about Necrozone for a very long time, and I think that'd be fun to take a look at. The problem is I'm gonna have to find it. I legitimately don't remember. I do remember. Well, I have it on my GitHub, so I definitely have it. It's just, do I have it locally? I actually don't have it locally, but I do want to pull it up because that sounds fun. So as long as I'm signed in, I think I'm signed in. If I'm not signed in, then we can't do it. I'm sorry, I'm not signed in. We'll have to talk about Necrozone next week. Remind me next week, and we will definitely do it next week. But yeah, at the moment, I don't have it ready. How long would it take to make a game by yourself and maybe some people on Discord? Well, it depends on the scope of the game, because if the game that you're making is Pong or Space Invader, something really small and easy, then yeah, a group of newcomers could probably get together and learn the ins and outs of it together and do it in the course of a couple weeks. But if your game idea is like Moonshire or like a Zelda game, and none of you guys are experienced, then I'm going to say 10 years is my estimate, because that's how long it's taken me. I reckon for a health bar, it's nicer if the bar gets through a ceiling function so you don't have to enemy with an empty bar. Yeah, I think I do have a edge case for that. I think that this line here does that because it checks if it's above 1 or it's below 0 so that it can't go out of bounds of the bar. Thanks for taking your questions. Sure, I'm happy to help. Show your UI scripts? Yeah, I can show them. I show them on the rig, but the problem with showing this UI stuff is that it's 1, old, 2, bad. 3, it's too much. There's 2,800 lines of code in this file. And it's not really code I would recommend using. I'm trying to find even where the new button thing is. See, it's just so hard to find things. So you say new UI, new button, and then every button has an ID. And some button, like this is the new game button, and then you can give it a class, like what text does the button have, how wide is it. So all of these different, here's a cycle, you can choose what cycles, like this is the control scheme cycle, so you choose which control scheme you want to use. But, I wish I could describe properly how annoying this is to work with, because this looks easy. Like just typing in these cycle options. But then once I have these cycle options, now somewhere else in this file, it needs to take those cycle options and render them. It like does a total options. Oh, it inserts into that. And here again, it's doing the I pairs the cycle options. Is this the on click? Yeah, this is the on click function. So it's going to use those cycle options when you click on it to cycle through. So I really wish that this was simpler for me to explain, but it's just the way that that's just the way that it is. I wish UI was easier to work with in general, but the tricky part for me is even if you use a library, integrating the library with your code, with your game's code, and making it function with the rest of the game takes a lot of custom coding anyway. So I kind of like doing it custom for that reason, really. Do you have any good tutorial recommendation for Love2D and Lua? Oh, following mine. So there's really not that many resources online for Love2D and Lua. So there's my getting started playlist on my YouTube channel. So I would check that out. I think that's a good starting point. Besides that, there's the Udemy course. I think that's a fine resource. But yeah, Love2D in terms of tutorials and stuff, it's a bit lacking, I'd say. But at the same time, though, considering my advice is to make games, I still think that it's fine, because I don't really think people should be following tutorials for concepts above what I talked about in my tutorials. I think that you should just jump into making a game. I think that you can make a game fine after following my tutorials, as long as you keep the scope simple and like not too complex. I think the main problem people have issues with is that they really have difficult scopes. It's hard to make a complex big game, and I just don't like seeing people get overwhelmed. Ow. Practice gives wisdom. Yeah, I think so. Ooh. And Laren, hi, welcome in. How many people do we got in stream today? Because I have something I want to share, as long as we got people watching. 95, yeah, totally. While I'm not really talking about anything in particular, I figured I might as well show off this little beauty right here. There it is. It finally came in. I'm very, very happy. Super, super big accomplishment. Very proud to have my silver play button finally. So, 100,000 subscribers finally happened. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you. Yeah. I got a lot of folks saying. I got Adele, Vexer, Nizar. Thank you so much. And Michael, or Mikal, I think. Diego, Dasrail, Soda, 95, Mr. Ducky Wucky. Yep, I'm very, very proud. I have a nice little spot for it right behind me on my shelf of games. Actually, it's going to go right above, like, you can see on my shelf behind me where the Nintendo Switch games are. It's going to go right above it. So maybe I can change the angle of the stream so that the camera can pick it up, because you wouldn't be able to see it right now. But yep, pretty neat. The only thing I need to do now is get my check mark, because maybe that process is different. I thought that you get a check mark once you get 100K subscribers, but I haven't gotten mine yet. I assume that there's a process you have to go through for that to work out. Congrats, it's nuts. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Juvik, Spook, Adrian, Nikki, thank you. And actually, before I forget, I'm going to go ahead on the Discord server. I'm going to post another picture that I took. Since, okay. Yeah, I'll show it on stream too. Give me 1 second while I pull it up. Look at him! My sister made this, or she commissioned an artist to make this plushie. So we got a little Lua, and it's next to the silver play button. Dream come true. Yeah, I'm pretty proud. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. So I would say that it's as close to a dream come true as you could say. But this is just the start. I have some folks that are going to be helping me with editing and helping me with moderation, helping me with new artwork. So we got a lot of stuff planned. I have no plans of slowing down anytime soon. Very cute. Thank you. Yeah, I have this on my shelf over by my door. It would be fun to sell plushies at some point because the character is so cute. It's just a cute little short guy. I would love to cuddle one with a little Lua. Just want to eat it. I want to eat it too. It probably tastes like felt though. Let's go back to doing some fights. And actually, I want to use the greatsword because I haven't been using the greatsword at all. Its name is Lua. Unofficially, yes. Like, maybe I could reach out to the folks at the Lua Foundation and see what they think of an official name, but probably not. Just the reason the character is named Lua is because when this game was an open source project and I first designed the character, I never named him Lua, but the name of the project on GitHub was Legend of Lua, and people saw that and they're like, oh, well, the character must be named Lua then. So people started calling him Lua, and that it just stuck, which I think is fine. I need one of those plushies to watch my house. Yeah, he'll keep it safe. How to make games? Yeah, I mean, like, there's a getting started playlist on my channel. I think that's the best place to start. Your character's name is Azure? Nice! I love the name Azure. And also, how do people pronounce that word? Because I feel like the word has a different way that people pronounce it depending on where you're from. I'm talking about this word because it's pronounced differently in certain languages, and I think that it originally stems from French, where it's pronounced Azure, and maybe some French speaker could come in and confirm that. However, when I worked at Microsoft, the product that I worked at the product that I worked on was called Microsoft Azure, and they pronounced it Azure. Every single person in the company, including the CEO, pronounced it Azure. However, whenever I talk to people and I say Azure, they say, "Oh, you mean Azure?" And I'm thinking, no, but also maybe. And I think that they're kind of right. I think that Azure is how it's supposed to be pronounced, since it comes from the French name. Azure. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think about that, but someone or one of my friends called me out for that recently, and I'm like, well, that's how they pronounce it at Microsoft, so it's definitely how they pronounce it. Since it's synonym word blue. Yeah, yeah. And actually, I'm planning to use the word Azure once in this game too, because the torch, I'm planning to add a blue torch. I'm going to call it the Azure Flame. As you are, yeah. Ah, Asha. Other game engines or frameworks? Yeah, I worked with GameMaker a lot. 1 second. Okay, I found a bug. I found a bug. From what we just fixed. Okay, watch very, very closely. Watch him jump, okay? When he jumps in the air. See how he changes his looking direction mid-air. He's not supposed to do that. He's looking left, or... Yeah, look, he's always changing to look at the player. However, that's not what he's supposed to do. Look, he just jumped backwards. Yep, look at that. That's so weird. He just jumped backwards. Okay, he's jumping backwards. That's a bug. You know what that bug comes from? It comes from here. So, we need to fix that. Enemy action. So that file that I changed a second ago, it caused a bug. So when I changed this to txty, that did break it because the target's position isn't where we're going. We are going to the destination position. So we don't want to get target position unless we do. No, we want target. We want destination position. So there's an enemy utils. There's a get target position, and then there's a get des position. Yeah. This is what we want. So rather than using the target position, we're using the destination position. So when the enemy is jumping to a new tile, it's going to be facing its destination rather than always facing the player, because we're finding out that sometimes that causes the enemy to jump backwards, which is not what we want. It's not a bug, it's a feature. I mean, kinda. It's 3 space indentation for Lua base. Is that standard? I didn't know that. 2, 3, 4. Mine's 4. Yeah, that's just based on your IDE. You can set the space indentation in your IDE, but I use 4. Can't wait for it to be out. Yeah, I'm excited for it too. What did I just... Oh yeah, I changed the... Who made my profile picture? His name is V. He's an artist. He lives... And he is not currently doing commissions at the moment, but I should follow up with him and see if he's open, because I think that he'd like it if I start shouting him out more. I love my profile picture, by the way. It's really, really cool. Super, super cool design. So we're going to try out that same fight we were just doing, which is UD4. So hopefully we're gonna try it with this guy. When he jumps, hopefully he doesn't jump backwards. Okay, yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, that fixed it. My favorite Death Note character? I mean, L is kind of a cliched answer, but he's so weird and quirky, and I do like that. How do I handle your game, and have you looked at Roblox React Lua? I haven't specifically looked at React Lua with Roblox, but on Udemy, I get a lot of people asking about Roblox specifically because like that course teaches Lua, and a lot of people look it up specifically looking to learn Lua for Roblox, even though the course isn't about Roblox. What's the time in my country? Right now it's 1:21 in the afternoon. How do you pronounce Chalacade? I say Chalacade. Chalacade. But I've heard people say Chalacade. I think that makes sense too. It's not Sade. It's Chalacade. Hard C. Nier's pretty overhated. I like Nier, actually, because I like his visual design. I think it's weird that he's portrayed as a child, because he doesn't act like... Well, sorry. What's weird about Nier is that he doesn't talk like a child, but he acts like a child. I don't get that. Whoa! Man, that is so bugged. Whenever the frame rate gets low and the player like does the lunge towards the enemy, it gets so messed up. Nier's the most mature character in the show, which is why I found it so weird whenever he would like play with toys. I understand that's part of his character. It just felt weird. Ugh. I think the greatsword's not good against him because it's not knocking him back enough. Choose between love and monogame. So, first of all, I recommend that you download both of them. You can download both of them. They're both free. And try them both out. If it turns out that you like one more than the other, then do that. But long story short, there's no wrong answer. You should just use the one that you like the best. Childhood nostalgia? Yeah, that's kind of the goal here. Will I add co-op mode? Yeah, I think I will. I'm going to try to, at least. So I put in a lot of work to making multiplayer work, so you can connect 2 Steam clients together with this game. I just need to put in the work of making it so that the game plays properly once you do that. So the networking side should be fixed, or should be handled. It's just the actual making the game functional and playable, you know. How do you feel about player character jumping on top-down games like this one? Jumping. Normally I like it. Like in Link's Awakening, I love that you can jump in that game. Or Four Swords Adventures, you can jump in that game as well. And I think that it adds a lot to the combat. I think that my game would be improved, honestly, if I had some way of jumping. But I just don't think it's in the cards. It doesn't work as it is now. I'm not sure how to explain what I mean. Whew. Man. Oh my gosh. This boss is way too hard. This is supposed to be the first boss. Way too difficult. And what I don't get either is that sometimes when I hit him with the sword, it does knock away the spin. Like that knocked it away decently. But there it didn't. I don't know what happened there. Will player 2 be a recolor of the main character? Well, the main character is recolorable already. I'll show you. So in the game, you can find dyes, and you can just change your color whenever you want. But yeah, since you can change your color though, the second player will just be a different color. Woo! I think he's almost dead. Oh! I can't believe he's still alive. Oh my gosh. This is way too hard. How will the player beat it? Yeah, this is way too difficult. Well, it's not balanced with the greatsword. I think the greatsword's busted. There's way... That fight's way too hard for the first boss. Or it might be the second boss. I'm still kind of deciding the flow of certain things. There's a cooldown on knockback. I think that... Well, so here's what I actually think is happening. Is that the greatsword slash is too slow. So if I switch to using the great axe, so the great sword slash does 1 damage, and the great axe's slash does 2 damage, and the great axe's slash knocks it back more, while the great sword slash does not knock back very much at all, because it's meant to combo into the stab. So that's why the slash of the greatsword isn't working very well on the spin attack, because you need to use a high knockback attack in order to do that properly. So let's try that instead. Add abilities to the sword. So what I'm planning to do is have upgrades where once you unlock like the lightning ability, once you shatter your weapon, it'll like do a big lightning explosion. So I have something in mind. But in terms of like making builds and equipping things to your weapons or equipping things to your character, I don't want to do too much of that just because I don't like time spent in menus. Yeah, so the axe works way better for this phase because the knockback is more appropriate. Ow! Yeah, the axe is really good against this boss. Yeah, this is like a million times easier. How did I learn game dev? So I started with Game Maker. Oh! When I was playing Moonshire, I was wondering, how does the main character even grab and hold these? Yeah, big on his body. It's kind of like how does Kirby wield a giant hammer over his back when the hammer is bigger than himself. It's just a cartoon, that's all. My main concern is that, like, the player doesn't have hands. How is he holding the axe in the beginning? I guess he kind of has hands now, but it's meant to be like it's meant to be more like a robe that's covering his whole body, or a cloak. I guess more like a cloak than a robe. Figure out which weapon is better for each boss. I think that's actually kind of a cool little detail, and honestly, unexpected, unintended. I didn't intend for that to be the case. I'd be lying if I said I planned that. Why didn't I make a boss bar? So I did. I did make a boss bar, but I took it out because I just didn't think it added anything to the game. Or really, let me rephrase it. I thought it added to the game, but when there's a big health bar on screen, people will stare at it. And I know that because I stare at it. When there's a big health bar and I'm smacking an enemy with it, or I'm smacking an enemy to drain their health bar, I'm just constantly staring at their health bar. I'm not even looking at the enemy. And that's not what I want for people. I want them to look at the enemy. So I think it's still important for me to convey health. And I think that the crocodile boss should have like a phase 2 where like maybe the collar breaks or his scales get cracked. Something to show that he's taking damage. But I don't want to do a health bar because it's too distracting. That's not a feature? Well, I mean, it's funny how my mentality with this game is all about minimalism. It's kind of making a statement how lots of games have XYZ, but I'm choosing to not do that. I'm choosing to not have a crafting system. I'm choosing to not have a traditional inventory. The characters don't have names. Like, this is just the blacksmith. You don't need to give him a name. Everything is meant to be so simple and understated where it's all killer, no filler. That's kind of the catchphrase I like to use is all killer, no filler. I don't really want to. The NPCs don't look great. I mean, they're hit and miss. I think like this one looks fine. Or I like this sailor over here. I think this one looks really good. So I'd say that this NPC is the level of quality I would like for all of them. But that blacksmith, for example, was an old version. Ellie already redesigned the blacksmith, and I haven't imported it into the game yet. I thought that was a hippo or not a crocodile. I call it the croc, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have a name. Nothing has names in this game. Because I noticed that when I play video games and I talk about them with people, I would say, I never use their proper names. I say, oh, you're going to go talk to the blacksmith. Even if the blacksmith had a name. Like, let's say that when I walked over to the blacksmith and I talked to him and it said, like, his name was Joe. People won't call him Joe. They're still going to call him the blacksmith. Or like this guard over here. I could give him a name. I could say that this is Pablo, but Pablo it doesn't matter what his name is. It's just like his name is, he's just the guard. You can also add a counter after a certain number of hits so the enemy has dangerous attack. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Sometimes stripping out game elements forces you to make the game more clear. It's also innovation by restrictions. Since I'm bound by the restriction of being on my own, this being a 2D game, that's a restriction in and of itself. The pixel art makes it restrictive. There's a lot of small details that I am conscious of. I need to take out anything that's not needed. It's a small game, and there's not enough room for everything. Oh, I was going to show the colors earlier, so you can change your color. So like now I'm little blue Lua or the white Lua. And then on top of that, there's you can individually color pieces like the hood or the body or the eyeballs. But I'm going to make it so that's unlockable, where you start the game only having the dyes where like you can change your main color. But once you unlock the like I think I'm going to make it an easel where you click on the easel and then it opens up this new menu where you can really cut pieces of the robe get applied to. And I also want to make it so that you can mix colors together. So like since I have this red dye and this blue dye, you can mix them together to get a purple dye and then apply that purple to individual pieces. I think that would be a lot of fun too. If Moonshire becomes successful, we'll have crossovers with other games. who's to say? Maybe it will. If I do, it would be kind of understated because I get kind of annoyed when games I'm playing have references to other games because sometimes I haven't played them. But sometimes I like it. Like when I played, what is it? When I played, oh, what's it called? Why is the name Dead Cells? When I was playing Dead Cells, that game has lots of references to other indie games, but they were subtle. They were kind of like Easter eggs, really. I think that level of reference is perfect because if you get it, you get it. But if you don't, it's not taking away anything. It's not that big of a deal. But it would be annoying if there was like a whole level dedicated to exploring some world from another game, but not everyone has played those other games. Moonshire X Balatro, yeah, they should make Lua into a little card. That'd be awesome. Have you decided about range combat? So I think the extent of the range combat is just going to be the boomerang. I think that this is going to be the ranged weapon because having ranged attacks, it breaks the game. The whole game changes when you're able to hit stuff from far away. So I think that since the game is revolved around mostly melee combat, I think having some ranged attacks is fine. Or like situational things where you can throw things or something with maybe a dash attack that shoots a projectile. I think that's fine. But I don't think I want to have a dedicated weapon that's all about like really hanging back and playing conservatively because I think the game is more fun when it's chaotic. And when you have ranged weapons, it kind of takes away from that. Is there more weapons for the game? For the final game, I'm planning for there to be a total of 10. And that's not very many, but that doesn't sound, sorry, I should say that doesn't sound like many, but the truth is I was planning for this game to have like 30, but it would have just been like 3 different axes, 5 different great swords, like 3 different colored torches or like elemental torches, like an ice torch, maybe 4 different boomerangs. Is that really better than having just 10 weapons? I think it's more interesting to have 10 hyper unique, very distinct weapons rather than like 30 weapons, but they're all basically based off of the same 5 or 6. I think it's better to have a nice variety of core weapons, and then, you know, I can go from there. I talked about doing some kind of like roguelike side quest, or like a side mode. I think that expanding on the weapon types in that mode would be really fun. Like you could add elements to the weapons, or you could add upgrades or gems or skills or extra combo weapons. I don't know. Combine weapons together. There's all kinds of stuff that you could do. I think that would be a lot of fun. Did I give up on spells? I think spells are going to only be for shattering your weapon. So, in case you don't know, my game has a unique mechanic where you heal your health by shattering the weapon that you're healing, or that you're holding. And you do that once you have the gauntlets. So, like, let's say I had taken some damage, which I can go actually take some damage over here. So I take some damage against these spikes, and if I want to heal, I have to give up my boomerang. So I can just heal, and now my HP is back. But it cost me my weapon. And if I want my weapon back, I have to go to a save point. And once I go to a save point, I get my boomerang back. And that's kind of like the idea, is the sword is your backup weapon, but you can change between which weapon you have equipped by changing it here and then going to a save spot. And then, oh, and we were talking about spells. I think spells are going to trigger when you shatter. So like right there, I shattered. I think I'm going to make it so that you can choose a spell to activate once you shatter. So you can use a spell once per fight, and then once you save, you like kind of like get it back again. And the reason I'm not fleshing it out more than that is because I wanted to keep it confined to the mechanics of the game. I don't want to tack more stuff on top of what's already there. Since shattering is already a mechanic, I don't think I need to make it any more complicated than that. Add a Hollow Knight reference. I think that there already is one. So take a look at... This isn't really a reference, but look at the damage flash. Or, sorry, how about when the enemy takes damage? Do you see the little balls that pop off of the enemy? Those are from Hollow Knight. Like, I looked at Hollow Knight's damage balls. Like, when you hit something in Hollow Knight, it does a very similar ball effect where all these, like, little particles fly off. And I got this idea straight from Hollow Knight. It looks really, really good. In fact, I haven't changed this damage effect for, like, over 2 years. It's been the same for a long time. And this is straight from Hollow Knight. It's such a good effect. It's so simple. Ugh, I'm starting to get really congested again. I'll probably have to end in a few minutes just because if I start getting stuffy, I don't want the quality of my talking to go down, and I don't want to strain my voice too much. So we'll probably end in about 5 minutes. Put a limit to the bow by having limited arrows. Yes, but then what happens when you run out? If you run out of arrows, I don't want you to be stuck with just a busted, unusable weapon. Maybe add themed particles for different enemies. Yeah, definitely. I could definitely do that. And also other things like unique effects or sound effects that play when they get hit. I want to add like particles that fall on the ground. Like if I was fighting a blue slime right now and I hit it, it'd be cool if it left like a blue slime puddle or like a bunch of jelly flew off of it and landed on the ground. Just as a small little effect. Gotta go now. Thanks for chopping in. Appreciate it. I interacted with comments. Yeah, I try to. That's the kind of content that I like listening to, is just people talking. And I like talking with my audience a lot. What is my deadline? I don't have one. And, you know, that's kind of a problem. If I had a deadline, it would force me to work harder and faster. But since I don't have one, that means I can take my time, which is good because I can be more methodical and strategic about what features I want to add. But it's bad because it gives me too much freedom to dilly-dally, and I think that I've been taking too much time. The plus side is that the game is really good. I'm happy with the mechanics, and I'm much more confident now with the direction I'm taking things. But the bad part is that it's just taken way longer than it needs to. Make the bow like a second weapon. One thing I considered is making it so that when you charge your attack, like you hold the attack button, it would charge your bow. So like the bow is a charge attack basically. And I think that would work out okay. So what do you still have to finish? A lot. I mean, like if you look through these menus, I need to finish the map. So in terms of which levels are finished, it's only basically these. There's still so much that needs to be done. In terms of mechanics and functionality, it's mostly solid, but there's still a lot to do because I want to rework the enemies again to be easier to work with. But this rework will not be as big as the previous one, because the previous enemy rework was taking this enemy old file. Look, this file is 2,000 lines long, and I split it up into all of these enemy files. So all 2,000 lines were split up into these individual files, which are like, look, this one's 25 lines long, but yeah, most of them are more like a few hundred. And I want to do that again, but this time less reorganizing it into different files. It's organized nicely now, but I want to make it easier to work with because I changed directions a little bit during the time that I was refactoring, and it's not quite as clean as it could be. Do you ever get burnt out from this game? Yeah, kind of, but thankfully I still feel really motivated about it. It's still all I think about. I think about this game every single day, and I'm constantly trying to find new ways to improve the level design mainly. I'm thinking about the level design and the flow every moment of every day. It's unreal. But it's a lot of fun. I like level design a lot now. Okay, I think I'm gonna end stream for today because my nose is runny and stuffy, and I'm all congested right now because I still have a cold I'm recovering from. But I did do a lot better than I thought I was going to. I thought that for sure that by the hour mark I was gonna be exhausted and phlegmy, but I feel fine. But I think it's about time that I wrap up before I start getting too stuffy. But thank you all so much for being here. I will be back again next week, and thanks again for 100,000 subs. Really appreciate all the support, and I will see you again next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye, everyone. Excuse me. Sorry, I need to stop stuttering too. Bye, everyone.